You just got home with your new game, you wrestled away the plastic, put the game in, and started up the console. You watch a couple developer and producer logos, start up the game, and are immediately immersed in what will be the next 10 to 100 hours of your free time. Video game intros are what suck us in and get us amped up for the game ahead. Sure, nowadays a lot of them are shitty tutorials, but I'm here to talk about the best intros and openings games have to offer. In this top 10, I'll be talking about both opening cutscenes and opening segments. So sit back and relax while I count down the top 10 video game openings.
Number 10.
Number 10 is a game I haven't even played yet, but this intro has been recommended to me by multiple people, and after watching it all the way through, I had to put it on the list. Lost Odyssey is about an immortal named Kaim, and this opening is just so incredibly badass. It starts off with these two armies at war, but one is just absolutely stomping out the other. Then all of a sudden our boy Kaim shows up and starts fucking dudes up. There's a crazy action sequence, but then shit gets real when literal hell begins raining from above. After everything's over, only one man remains, Kaim. I've always wanted to play this game despite knowing little to nothing about it, but after watching this opening, I have to play this.
Number 9.
This was the game that really got me into the Final Fantasy series, and parts of this intro were used in the TV commercials I would see when I was staying up late watching episodes of Dragon Ball on Fox Rochester as a kid. I had to have this game. When I got it and started it up, I was greeted by one of the most epic and iconic video game intros of all time. The showcase of the badass gunblades, Squall and Cypher's showdown, images of the evil and powerful sorceress, and of course the girl of Squall's dreams are all featured. The last full RPG I had played before this was Dragon Warrior 4 on the NES, and these visuals were absolutely blowing my mind. I'll never forget both the advertisements that featured parts of this intro and the first time experiencing this opening cinematic for myself, which is why Final Fantasy VIII stands strong at number 9.
Number 8.
Chrono Trigger is an amazing game. In fact, I put it at number 1 in my top 10 Super NES games video. But I never played this game until it came out in the Final Fantasy Chronicles collection alongside Final Fantasy IV. I remember reading articles about this incredible game, and the hype was absolutely real. When I popped it in, I was greeted to one of the greatest intro cutscenes in video game history. Akira Toriyama went all out with this one, capturing the excitement, action, and overall sense of adventure that this game offers. I still get amped up today when watching this video, which is why I made it to number 8 on the list.
Number 7.
Man, Ni no Kuni is just an incredible game, and this one really hits home with me. You see, the opening 40-minute video in Ni no Kuni captures the aspirations of a young boy and his friend, the love of his mother, and so much more. After Oliver's soapbox racer goes awry, he falls into the river. His mom risks her life to save his and dies. Oliver then shuts himself away in his bedroom for weeks until he's brought a stuffed toy, the final gift from his mother. Then, before his eyes, old Drippy, the toy from his mom, comes to life and whisks him away to a world full of magic and fantasy. Losing my dad at a young age, I can completely relate to this. I remember just shutting myself in my bedroom, getting lost in my video games. The way I see it, there are two ways you can look at the story of Ni no Kuni. On the surface level, when Oliver is whisked away to this fantastical world, or he's imagining this world as a way of coping with not only the death of his mother, but the fact that he blames himself for it. With there constantly being real-world connections to the other world, and the only people joining him on his quest being either make-believe or others like him, whose lives are filled with hardships, who want to escape the real world, this was a connection I started making fairly early into the game. I don't want to spoil more than I already have, but Ni no Kuni is probably my favorite game on the PlayStation 3. It's now been remastered for the PS4 and Switch, so you must play this game. This incredible introduction is just the start of an amazing journey through two worlds and the heart of a child who suffered the greatest loss.
Stop that now! Heel, boy! Heel!
Told you, they didn't notice a thing. Yeah. Let's get a shunt in, crybaby bunting.
For the last time, it's Oliver!
Hey, it's not bad work for a crybaby, this.
Ugh.
Number 6.
The Uncharted games are a series of massive amounts of action, thrills, and adventure, and Uncharted 2's opening segment is full of all of that and more. Nathan wakes up on what seems to be a normal train until he realizes that he's basically laying down and can't stand upright. Why is that, you might ask? Because the train is dangling off a goddamn cliff. That's right, you start off this game having to escape from a dangling train car before the coupler breaks and you fall to your doom. Talk about starting things off in a tense situation. Uncharted 2 will always be my favorite in the series, and this opening sequence is one of the best.
Number 5.
Cruiser is changing course. Now on intercept trajectory.
Can't be.
I'm not the biggest Western RPG guy, but there are definitely some damn good ones out there. For example, I really like messing around in games like the Fallout series, and the plot and gameplay in Mass Effect 2 is absolutely delightful. Mass Effect 2's opening is pulse-pounding to say the least. I mean, how many games start off with the main character, his entire crew, and his ship being completely destroyed? It's a good thing they can rebuild Shepard anew, because after this incredible opening sequence, I am completely hooked!
Number 4.
Final Fantasy X is a fantastic entry in the series. It's not the very best, but we'll get into that in the next Top 10 video. Final Fantasy X tells an amazing story about a man seemingly ripped out of time, and does a good job of telling it as well. The majority of the game is being retold by its main character Tidus, while him and the rest of the party are sitting around the campfire in a strange but important place. Once the tale starts, the true game begins. Tidus is in a giant sprawling city filled with skyscrapers headed to a game of blitzball, which is like underwater soccer. He's the star player of his team, signing autographs on his way. How does he end up around the fire with those people? It takes 3/4 of the game to really explain that, but this intro goes on to explain the meat of it. At the blitzball game, all is well. There's a badass cutscene with some great music playing to get you amped up as Tidus goes for a sphere shot to score a goal. Then it happens. The water around the city starts levitating into the sky, and blasts of energy shoot out of the water as the city begins to crumble and a massive monster is revealed. After attempting to escape the city with a mysterious alcoholic samurai, you get too close to the monster as the city crumbles beneath you, and you're sucked into a giant eye in the sky. This is one of the most memorable openings, and definitely the best the Final Fantasy series has to offer. This intro quite literally sucks you in, and gives you a massive push to get you started, and make you want to know what happened and what will happen, which is why it's here at number 4.
It all begins here.
Number 3.
The opening to the Phantom Pain is just incredible. You start off by waking up out of a coma that you've been in for 9 years, and slowly rehab your way to be able to walk and even sit up on your own. You're vaguely briefed on how you ended up there and your current condition. Then you're told about how you have enemies that are looking for you, and that the doctor is going to do what he can to protect you. Just as you're coming to terms with your situation, you see a nurse get taken out in the background and all hell breaks loose. The camera work, music, and everything is just perfect to build the tension as the assassin takes out the doctor and then comes after you. Luckily, the patient in the bed next to you is a complete badass and does his best to help you out by tossing some flammable disinfectant on the assassin, then lighting her on fire. From there, it only gets better. You and your new, or is it old, friend have to escape the hospital, even though you can barely even stand. Next thing you know, the entire hospital's on fire and under attack, but with the guidance and sacrifice of your roommate, you make it out to be rescued by none other than Revolver motherfucking Ocelot, while being chased by a flaming horseman through the woods on horseback. How the hell do you even top an opening sequence like this? Well, there are only 2 intros that I consider to be better.
Number 2.
Tommy, listen to me. He is the contractor. He's the contractor, okay? I can't lose this job.
The Last of Us is an incredible game, and it has an intro that gets the heart both pumping and bleeding. You start off playing as a young girl who wakes up on the couch in the middle of the night to give her dad a birthday gift. The father thanks her, then puts her to bed. It's this normalcy that sets up the rest of the intro, if not the rest of the game. The phone rings and the girl's uncle is on the phone asking to speak to her dad, then the line goes dead, so she gets out of bed to look for her father. As you're wandering around the house, you find little hints as to what's going on. It doesn't really seem real to the characters until they see a news broadcast with explosions going on due to the rioting. And you can see out the window that these explosions and police sirens aren't just on TV. The dad runs into the house freaking out, grabbing his gun, talking about people going crazy. Just then, a neighbor breaks in through the window. Eventually, the uncle arrives in his truck, and you and your father get in and leave. From the back seat, you can look at the world around you, which gets more and more chaotic as you drive. The girl looking more and more frightened and helpless as it goes on. Then, all of a sudden, there's a car crash. Someone smashes into you, but the father and daughter are alive. You're now the dad, Joel. He breaks out of the car and grabs his girl, leading her through the crazy people to where they think might be shelter. Well, that doesn't last long, so the uncle stays behind while Joel and his daughter make an escape until special forces arrive and start gunning people down. Joel is carrying his daughter when they open fire on him. He lives, she dies.
Oh no.
The insanity and depressing emotional roller coaster of this opening sets the tone for the rest of the game. And now, during this pandemic more than ever, the opening credits really hit home. This eerie thriller is one of the greatest games of all time, and this opening is just perfect for it.
Pick you up. I know, baby. I know it hurts. Come on, baby. Please. I know, baby. I know. Sarah. Baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Come on. No. 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 Please.
Number 1. Chrono Cross gets a lot of flack, being the sequel of what many consider to be the greatest RPG of all time. I even said in my top 10 Super Nintendo games video how amazing Chrono Trigger was. Chrono Cross may not have lived up to its expectations as a Chrono Trigger sequel, but goddamn does it have the best opening. It starts off telling the story of how it all began, how things were bad, things were good, but no matter what, we lived the best we could given our current situation. Then it picks up and shows some of the most pulse-pounding scenes from throughout the game, while playing possibly the greatest video game song of all time. The music, the scenes, and the way it was all edited together really make this intro a masterpiece and a pleasure to watch. In fact, this intro is even better to watch after you've played through the game. The amount of emotions I feel just from this video alone, it summarizes all the feelings I felt playing through this great game. Chrono Cross has been kind of shit on for years, but despite not being Chrono Trigger, it's still one of the greatest games of all time. The world, the atmosphere, the characters, and the scenarios really make this game stand out, and the opening cutscene does an incredible job of showcasing all that. When I first came up with the idea of making this video, I was pretty sure Chrono Cross was going to end up as number 1. And after watching and replaying dozens of openings that I loved, I was right. Chrono Cross is the greatest opening in video game history. It's not as long or as graphically impressive as some of the others on this list, but man does it hammer you with emotions and excitement to play the game. And if nothing else, getting you excited to play the games is the most important job an opening has. Now for some honorable mentions. I had to mention Half-Life because it's somehow both amazing and boring as fuck. You're taking the train to work, and it starts off looking like just another day at the office. Then the train takes you to a secret facility where your company does its scientific experiments. It's so mundane, until it isn't. You start seeing radioactive fluids and creepy dudes in suits, and eventually, after starting up some experimental technology, everything goes to shit. What starts as a normal day at the lab breaks out into massive chaos, and it's one of the greatest intros ever. I've never been a big first-person shooter fan, but I've played me some Half-Life, and this intro always gives me the chills. Final Fantasy IV and VI both also had amazing openings. Final Fantasy IV opens up with a fleet of airships led by Cecil, who's noticeably upset after murdering the people of Mysidia and stealing their crystal. This part, all the way up to the burning down of the Mist Village, really sets the tone for the rest of the game. You're embarking on a wild ride where you must fight against the very people who have supported you and got you as powerful as you are. Is it right to use the power given to you by the King of Baron against him? Is it wrong to follow his seemingly terrible orders? That's for both the player and Cecil to decide. Final Fantasy VI, on the other hand, is an equally dark opening, but in a different way. Final Fantasy IV's opening has more of a psychological feel to it, but Final Fantasy VI's opening is also very physically dark. Before the title even shows up, you're given this dark, stormy screen where lightning cracks in the dark, purplish sky. Even the title itself is dark. Then you're given some backstory about how the world got itself into its current situation. A war which resulted in the loss of all things magic. But wait, there's a group of soldiers marching in mechs with some hopeful music playing. Once they get to town, however, they just start slaughtering the townspeople and their dogs with their overpowered Magitech armor. Showcasing the Empire's power early on gives you an idea of what you'll be up against and what kind of a world you're dealing with as well. Thanks again for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe. If you use Twitch, I'm streaming there at least 3 nights a week at twitch.tv/Dookie03. Hope to see you again sometime soon. Have a good one.